Hi everybody, it's Susan with Pumpkin Hill Stampers. I have a Stampin' Show and Tell project for you today. Today I'm actually using 3 sets. 2 of them I consider background stamps. So there's the Definitely Dahlia, single bloom. There's the marbled background. And then I'm using Rose Wonder for the words and for their little die for the tag. So there was a technique that I learned many years ago where you do 2 backgrounds together to overlap, and so that's kind of where I came up with this plan. So we're going to background stamp the marbled in Versamark, and then we're going to stamp Tangerine Tango on Tangerine Tango, so color on color for the bloom. And I'm going to show you how I put this one together. So I'm also going to be using the Stampartus. Now these stamps would fit on our very large blocks, but being that Stampartus is new, I decided to go ahead and use that again. And I found that with these big stamps, it was kind of a new way to get a nice even pressure on them. Sometimes that's an issue with these big background stamps for some people. So I'm going to show you how I set up my Stampartus to do this, because there's a couple of differences than the way we usually tell you to use it. Okay, so obviously a background stamp, if I want it to cover the entire card, entire face of the card, I can't put a magnet down on it, otherwise I won't be able to close the lid. So I'm going to use a little bit of washi tape, and I'm just going to make kind of a tape roll. Okay, doesn't really stick to itself, but it'll stick to the cardstock to keep it in place. So I'm just going to put a couple on the back, and I'm going to put this down on my mat here. Now I've removed the black plastic because this one has a foam back, so I don't want that black on there, and because I don't want the magnet to be in the way, I have it here holding this scrap paper down so I don't get ink on my Stampartus, but it's not going to be in the way of the stamp. Now, how do I know where to position my stamp? So this is what I did. So you take your background stamp off. So now I've positioned this here. I'm going to make myself a little bit of a guide so that if I go ahead and do another one, I'll know to line up my card right there. Okay? So I'm going to take my clean background stamp and I'm going to position it right over the top of that cardstock. Okay? Now I just pull my board down and adhere it, and we're good to go. So now I'm just going to go ahead and ink the entire background stamp with Versamark. So I'm just going to get a watermark image on my cardstock with this one. So just make sure that's good and juicy. And then I'm just going to flip this over and stamp it down. Put some pressure on there. Right? I don't have to worry about rocking and getting edges because we're in the Stampartus. And then I lift that up. And I have a very fun marble background stamp, but it's not too bold. Okay? So now I'm going to stamp the Dahlia over the top. So I'm just going to position my flower more or less in the center. And I'm going to bring the other arm in and adhere it. Now this time I'm stamping in Tangerine Tango, and I'm stamping onto Tangerine Tango, which is a retiring color, but really it's just color on color. So if you wanted to do this card in purple or pink, red, any other color you want that's your favorite, all you're doing is stamping color on color, and that's it. It's easy to go. Alright, so I've got that inked up. I'm just going to stamp this down on my card. Now, this is actually the very front of the card, and as you can see, I have another one here. So now we're going to stamp another piece. So, I know this is my guide for this one, and this one's going to go right in the center of that. So, let me take this up carefully, and now I'm going to put this one down over the top. Okay, and I'm going to repeat the same stamping. So I'm going to ink up this one, the Versamark, stamp that down. And then I'm going to ink this one up with the Tangerine Tango. Stamp that down. Press for even coverage. Pull that back up. Okay, I missed a little over here, so I'm just going to flip it back down. Press a little more on that side. Good. My bloom is perfect. Okay, so now I'm done with my Stampartus. Okay, so I'm just going to take this up and leave all that in place. And I'm just going to move this off the table so that we can keep working on the project. Okay, so I've got my two Tangerine Tango layers. Now you see, you only see a little bit of that behind, but it's kind of a fun thing, and it gives you a chance to practice. So, okay, so now we've got the Peekaboo Peach mounting layer. Okay, so I am borrowing the With Sympathy stamp from the Rose Wonder stamp set. I'm just going to stamp this in the Tangerine Tango on the Peekaboo Peach, kind of right there in the middle. And then I'm going to take the die. Uh-oh. Well, I was going to take the die and die cut this label out of this layer for us. Looks as though I've misplaced it. Alright, give me 1 second. Maybe it's here. Here it is. Huh! Phew. Don't you just hate that when you're in your stamp room and you know you just had something in front of you and you're like, where did it go? I just had it. And then it's usually right in front of you. So, thanks for bearing with me. Okay, so with our big shot, put this where we can see it. So this is going to be the mounting piece. So I'm going to steal this label out of the center, so that reserves some of your cardstock. So I'm just putting that on there, and I'm putting my cutting mat over the top. So I'm just going to cut out the tag. Just like that. So that's ready to go. So now we can just start putting together our project. So I'm going to layer my bloom on top of my Peekaboo Peach here. So see, this is just going to go right over the top, and you'll never know that I've borrowed a piece out of the center. Okay, that's going to end up on the top there. But before we do that, we're going to do a bow. So I have some of this fun, very vanilla satin ribbon, which is sadly retiring, but we'll have more gorgeous ribbon. And I'm just going to take a hole punch. This is just a 1/4 inch hole punch, and I'm going to put a hole in the front of my card. So this is kind of a fun cheater bow, so watch what I do. Some people get confused. So I've got a hole in my cardstock. Okay, I just punched a hole in there. So now I'm going to take one end of my ribbon, and from the back I'm going to feed it through that hole. So that creates like a little tail on the front. Then I bring the ribbon around and I wrap it, and then I go to the front and I push it through. Okay. Now I've got two tails, one up and one down. Alright, now I'm going to tie a bunny ear bow. So I'm going to make 2 loops, and I'm tying it upside down because my bows always tend to flip over. So I've got 2 loops from those tails, crisscross and tie a knot with them. Okay, and then you can work your bow to be any size you want it to be. Tighten it down, and then you just come in with your snips. Bring the two ribbons up, the two tails of the ribbons up, hold them together. Okay, so I've got them together, and then trim them at the same time so that they're about the same length and they have a nice finished edge. Okay, so now this whole thing is going to go on dimensionals. Isn't that a cute way to cheat on that bow? I found that through doing demo swaps. Another demonstrator sent me a card with that bow, and I was like, how did they do that? So of course I had to take the card apart. And now it's one of my favorite bows. Okay, so, because it's not too bulky, but you get that bow. So this just goes down on top. Okay, and so that bloom underneath just peeks out a little bit, so kind of like gives you that eclipsed thing going on. Now I've got my tag, so I'm just going to put dimensionals on my tag. And this card could be any kind of card. I did it a sympathy card, but you could make it a thank you, a birthday, a get well, thinking of you. And so just decide where on the front you want to put your tag. I think I'm going to put mine a little lower this time. And there you go. Now, if you wanted to stamp the bloom on your envelope, I'm going to go back to the Stampartus and show you how to do that. So let me bring that back in. So I have my stamp on my Stampartus, right? So I'm just going to put this arm back on the Stampartus body here. Okay, so if I want to stamp some of the bloom on my envelope, because I always usually decorate my envelope, I'm going to put my envelope in this way. So here's the flap. I'm going to put it so I want to stamp here. And I'm just going to move that off to the side for a second. So I'm just going to put this hereabouts. Yeah, that'll work. So, and this time I could put a magnet down on it because my bloom is only going to come over and touch part of it. But now see, I went like this and it wasn't exactly where I wanted it. So I actually need to put my envelope way over here. That washi tape off. So, kind of looking through the top, I want my bloom just to be on that top corner. So, I put that over there. Put my magnet on it. Remember, your magnets, you don't want them to touch. So, be careful about that. I'm just going to re-ink my Dahlia. And when I flip this down, I'll just stamp on that top corner to have my envelope. That was pretty snazzy, huh? Okay, so there's my take on the Stampartus today. And here are the cards that I just showed you. I hope you enjoyed them. And for those of you stamping with me this week, we're making these. So get excited. I am. Alright everybody, I will be back with another Stampin' Show and Tell later in the week. Have a great day, do some fun stamping, and if you need the details to all this stuff, remember subscribe to my newsletter, which will be out next Tuesday with this week's projects. Bye everybody.